we knew it was a possibility, but we didn't fully expect it. But
Yes, sir, there she goes.
It's another series win for the Toronto Blue Jays, and they come away after the month of April on the first day of May with a 15-8 record. Hello and welcome to episode 196 of Section 138. I'm your host, Mark Colley, as always, joined by Bryson and Jacob. Guys, how are you feeling after that 3-game set against the Astros?
You know, nothing's really changed. I mean, the Jays come out, they're winning series. They did it throughout the entire month of April, and they started off May on the exact same note. Everything's kind of the same. I mean, pitching's been stellar for the most part. The hitting's kind of iffy still, but at the end of the day, the Jays are finding ways to win in these one-run games. So kind of nothing is really changed, and it's kind of been status quo, and the Jays are still finding ways to win games. You can't complain whatsoever, and it's good that the Jays are getting these wins early on in the season.
Yeah, I don't know if it makes our job easy or hard, given that everything seems to be the exact same all the time. But like you say, the Blue Jays keep winning, and they keep doing it in basically the exact same way they've been doing it all season. It's pitching, pitching, pitching. Kevin Gausman with his phenomenal outing today, as we record this, 10 strikeouts, 0 walks again, has yet to walk a single batter this season, has yet to give up a single home run this season. And then we also have, other good starts this series. Obviously, nothing that cracks up to quite what Kevin Gausman did, but the offense still not there, but just enough to skate by. Jacob, how are you?
tell you what, this is preparation for the playoffs, because you're not like, you can win blowout games in the playoffs, but this is how you win a World Series: is you find a way to beat teams, not by blowing them out, but by just barely edging through them or edging over them. And Blue Jays are doing that. And I keep saying to myself, I'm a little concerned with the fact that all these games are within a couple of runs. But if you're winning them, then I don't really have a leg to stand on with that. And they're winning. They still have not lost a series. And I think that's very important. They went an entire month without losing a series. Things can't be better for this team going into the month 2 of the season.
I will echo what you just said there, the little bit of concern, because I think this is something that I guess I've had a growing sense of unease about. The Blue Jays have a +1 run differential, and that's not good at all. That's a problem. And in any other world where I would say they're not getting this lucky, you're going to have a team that is just barely over 500 or exactly at 500. So I am a little bit uneasy about this team and this start, but at the same time, you expect the offense to regress to their mean, which is, much better than league average, which is leading the league in offensive numbers. And you expect the pitching to progress a little bit, which means the bullpen's going to be a little bit worse. You expect the pitching to be a little bit worse, but the offense should counteract that change. So one part of me is very uneasy about what we've seen from this team so far. And then the other part of me realizes, look, the pitching is not going to be great all the time, but the hitting's going to come around, and it's going to be able to keep up this amazing stretch of games. So I don't know if you guys have a similar sense of unease and are trying to rationalize it to yourself, but I think that's kind of where I'm at after, 23, 24 games of the season and the first month being over.
Well, I think the biggest thing is the team is able to get the big hit when they need to get that big hit. And last season we saw it. Like they could go, and what was that one inning against the Red Sox where they had like 7 runs with 2 outs or something like that. Like they can do that, but they also can just barely beat a team. And nothing wrong with that. Like a win is a win. But the thing is it's worrisome that they need those clutch hits, but the fact that they're getting them doesn't make me as nervous. Like look at today. It was a 2-2 game. They were leading at one point. It was then eventually 2-2, and Santiago Espinal comes up with that big hit. And it was a big hit. Like it was very crucial. And then George Springer with that fantastic catch in the 9th, Jordan Romano again with the save. And if you're able to just get those clutch things, then it's good, it's beneficial, but you also do want to have a little bit of wiggle room, because like I know every aspect of this team is good, but you don't want to consistently rely on Jordan Romano. Like of the 15 wins this team has, I think he's saved 10 of them, or was it 11 of them? Excuse me. So he has pitched in like 80% of the Blue Jays wins, more than that, just in terms of their games, because he's had a few blown saves and a one blown save and the one non-save situation. So like it's good, but you also don't want that to happen. Like you want those nights where you can kind of just take your foot off the gas and just like get through it because you're up by so much. But if you're able to do this, it's especially against good teams. Like I think that's what's really important. Like when you're facing the Astros, they're about to face the Yankees, the Red Sox, who kind of are scuffling. But if you're facing good teams and you're able to beat them, even if it means you just barely like you trip and fall and you still are like 1 centimeter closer to the finish line, if that makes sense. Like if you're able to do that, that's a good sign. Like, and especially like you're not going to face bad teams in the playoffs. I mean, unless somebody squeaks in, but you're going to face good teams. Might as well learn to beat those good teams, especially if you are a good team. And that was something that was really noteworthy. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember who, but somebody on the broadcast team mentioned that if this team is able, or this is really where the team is going to show, despite how early it is, this is where they're going to show how good of a team they actually are. And that's by beating the good teams. And if you're able to just get that seventh hitter in your lineup to get that hit, or you put out your all-star closer, foreshadowing there. But if you're able to do things like that, the team doesn't necessarily have a ton to worry about. And yeah, you want better offense. You want better than one run in that second game of the series, or excuse me, or one run in that Red Sox game, 2 runs, 3 runs. Like you want better than that, but it will get better. Like Teoscar Hernandez, we'll get to in a bit. He's going to come back soon, at least expected to. So you're getting big pieces in your lineup back. I think it's just kind of a matter of time before those things really start to click. And still some guys struggling a little bit, but it will get better. And that's just kind of how I'm looking at it. Like the offense will get better, but even if it's not good, like say worst case, it's not a good offense. That would be very, very shocking to me. But if you can still win without that top of the top of the league offense, proves that this team is a lot deeper than even anticipated. But yeah, regardless, very good month for this team. You're now going against the Yankees. Let's see what they have. Yeah, the Yankees, like they're going to face the AL East opponents a lot this week, or this month and all season long. But it'll like this is the stepping stone to build off of, and the team I think looks like it's in a very good spot right now. And with the guys coming back, or at least expected to, I think my worries will kind of go away.
Yeah, I think a little bit differently than you guys. I'm not worried whatsoever from them winning these one-run games because I just know, and I think everyone knows at the back of their head that things are going to change. And the fact that the Jays are finding ways to win now in April, especially, or when you look back at the month of April, it's important. You look back and it's just looking at all the close or the high leverage situations that the team had. They were finding ways to win games. This is something that you didn't see last year at all. Last year the team found ways how to lose, and you look at it. There's a lot of factors that come into play. First of all, as much as we talk about the offense, of how the offense has started off slow, it is worth noting that league-wide offense is down completely, like in terms of power, in terms of average, in terms of everything about it, OPS, everything is down. So really, when you think of it, how, in terms of, I guess, the Jays in comparison to the rest of the league, how bad truly are they doing? And I don't think it's that different than the rest of the league. The rest of the league has been showing the exact same thing. That's number one. Number two, regardless if you believe in the conspiracy theories about the baseballs in terms of going from juice balls to kind of weighted down balls, a lot of people have been complaining about it. A lot of pitchers who have obviously had the upper hand in this have been complaining about it. Clearly, the baseballs are not the same. I hate to, be involved in conspiracy theories, but there seems to be actual like evidence behind this that it's true. And number three is you look at the teams the Jays have been facing. You've seen the Houston Astros for 2 straight weekends. That is a potential ALCS preview, if you ask me. I mean, you look at it, the high leverage situations, the intensity of the games, making it feel like not an April game, making it feel like an October game. The fact that the Jays are beating these teams in these situations, yes, it's not ideal to win by 1 run every couple games, but this team is too good for it to happen all year. It's eventually going to snap out of it. So meanwhile, while we wait for that to come in some sort of way within the next maybe couple weeks, who knows how long it takes until they get going, but you have to imagine that it's not going to be like this all the time. you look back on it because of what pretty much happened, and they beat these teams. They've won every series of the season so far. They beat the Astros twice now. They beat the Red Sox twice. You look at, they've played the Yankees. Like, I think this is one of the hardest schedules in terms of strength of schedule that the team has played. I believe the Jays have the 6th hardest schedule in terms of strength of schedule, behind only Texas, Boston, Cincinnati, Arizona, and Baltimore. And then if you want to look at the AL East to compare it to a team like the Yankees, who are a couple games up on the Jays, I think about a game and a half up on the Jays, who have a run differential, I think it's around 43. The Yankees have the 2nd easiest schedule in baseball, and they've played the Orioles a couple of times too. The Yankees are obviously playing really well. They're red hot. I'm not taking anything away from them about that, but you have to compare the two teams and look at, the Jays have had a lot more difficulty of opponents to start the year off. So for a team who hasn't been hitting good offensively out of the gate, it is asking a lot to look at the teams that they face in April and expect all this to, the Jays to click right away. I mean, if you were to go back in terms of April 7th or whenever the season started against Texas that Friday, and you were going to forecast the rest of the month, you notice that you have Texas, you have Oakland, you have the couple easy teams to start off the season. And then to realize that you have Boston in the middle of the month, you have New York, you have Houston twice, you had Boston twice. It's pretty, if you were to say at this point, the Jays would be 15-8 coming out of April into May now, I don't think any of us would really have predicted that. I think a lot of us were thinking more of a slower start for the team, maybe hover around 500. You're pretty set if you're hovering around 500 coming out of the month of April. But the fact that they've gone above expectations and they've won these games, it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. And I know it's going to come. We all know the offense is going to come. They're going to start putting up a lot more runs. But that's the thing I think about it with. And I also think about the expectations with this team. We talked about it all offseason. This is a team that's going to be a playoff contender. We know this. Everyone knows the lineup. We know the starting rotation. I mean, you look at the starting rotation right now, they have pretty much solidified a 3-headed monster in the starting rotation, besides a couple question marks at the bottom of the rotation. We should be talking about a team like this winning games. We should be talking about a first place team with the Jays. We shouldn't be talking about expectations and then coming out of April saying, oh, still not very confident on this team. I think we need to stick to that. And I think not only are obviously us being in terms of bias a little bit and being Jays fans, this has been recognizable throughout the rest of the league. The Jays are for real. I mean, you can say it so many times. They've been proving it on the field, regardless of they've been putting up 7 runs, 2 runs. At the end of the day, and I go back to what you said, Jacob, they're finding ways to win games. And I can't complain about it. Yes, it's not good for the heart rate. Yes, it's not good for panic attacks in terms of a roller coaster. But at the end of the day, we saw the opposite of this last year. And it was only, I guess, a matter of time before the Jays kind of reverse course and did it the opposite way in terms of finding ways to win. So I'm not concerned. Obviously, winning by 1 run every game isn't ideal because of the heart rate, like I was saying. And the margin for error is very thin. You talk about it, as much as the starting rotation has been pretty much dominant, there is a little bit of a kind of, I guess I would say, a little bit of pressure, not purposely done, but when you think about it, the margin for error is very slim. One mistake, the game's tied. And we've seen a couple lead changes throughout this month. It's not like the Jays have gone perfect, right? We know about what happened last week. And if you want to give a quick example about late in the game, when Houston, not this past series, but the series back in Houston, when they walked things off, it just shows the lead changes that happen. And it hasn't exactly gone in the Jays' favor every single game, but for most of the part, it has been. So I just think of it from many factors about it like that. And I just know that it's going to change, but they're finding ways to win. And I don't know why we should be. And I know you guys aren't complaining. So I'm going to make that clear. You guys aren't complaining. All I'm saying is, as much as it should be in the back of your head, I don't take anything major away from it. So the run differential, it's definitely got to get better. I mean, +1, it's not ideal, but at the end of the day, it's about that final record, and they're finding ways to win right now. And just to sum it off again, the teams they played this month, it's pretty darn near impressive what they did, especially without Danny Jansen, without Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, they've been missing pieces to start the year. They've only had them for a couple of games, and they're still finding ways to win, as much as the top of the order hasn't exactly been consistent. I think a big part of them, I guess, being competitive in these games, though, is the bottom of the order. No matter who you throw out there in the bottom of the order, they are putting up really good at bats, and they've also been one of the reasons for these late comeback wins. I mean, late inning rallies. We saw it. A most recent example would have been, I guess, this last series against the Red Sox, when Raimel Tapia started off a rally later in the game, and then of course setting things up for extra innings. just things like that, where the bottom of the order is putting up great at-bats. And a main highlight would be Santiago Espinal, who's been pretty much leading the way in terms of that at the bottom of the order. A lot of people are talking about moving him up in the order. A lot of people like where he is. I'm just saying that, as much as the lineup hasn't been putting up 10 runs a game, they are still putting up really good at-bats, and they're finding ways to win.
So it sounds like you're frustrated with people who are concerned about the Blue Jays.
Not frustrated. I just think maybe you're looking into it too much, but I wouldn't say frustrated, because everyone has the right to be concerned. I mean, it's definitely something that you expect to happen a little bit in terms of concern.
Yeah. Because I think that's where I am. Like, I don't want to be concerned. Like you say, like they're 15-8. Like, there's only so much we can say negative about a team that has won 15 of their first 23 games and put up the fourth best winning percentage in April in franchise history, and has the longest streak to start a season in franchise history without losing back-to-back games. Like, there is only so much negative we can say about that, especially when they are tied for first in the American League in wins with the New York Yankees. At the same time, I'm concerned about the future. I'm concerned that this is not sustainable. And that's what I'm talking about when I say I have this sense of unease when I'm watching the Blue Jays this month. It's because they're not blowing out teams, and they aren't doing what we expected them to do offensively. And that's where my sense of unease comes in. And it's not because they have won all these games. It's because one-run games are maybe not exactly a flip of a coin, but it's pretty darn close in baseball. There's so much luck involved in a one-run game. And at some point, I'm worried that luck will turn if they keep winning by one run. Again, they're 15-8. Can't be too concerned. And I do think the luck will turn for the offense. I think the offense is going to pick up. And like you say, Bryson, offense around the entire league is depressed. You look at putting the Blue Jays offense in context. They're 5th in the league in hits per game, 7th in batting average, 4th in OPS, and 1st in home runs. So really, when you look at it that way, what it comes down is hitting with runners in scoring position, because in runs, they're middle of the pack. So yes, I think it's going to turn around. Yes, I think the Blue Jays are going to keep winning. I'm just a little nervous that we haven't seen the offense totally explode yet. But that being said, we have seen the starting pitching be phenomenal. And I know you guys talked about this a little bit last week, but Kevin Gausman, absolutely phenomenal outing. 10 strikeouts, 0 walks. He hasn't walked a single batter this year, hasn't given up a single home run this year, and is, I believe, the only time someone else has done that is Cy Young, who we all know was a pretty darn good pitcher. There's an award named after him. I know you guys talked about Alek Manoah putting up Cy Young award numbers, but if I'm weighing in on this conversation, I think it is Kevin Gausman. He's putting up more strikeouts than Alek Manoah is. He's allowing less walks than Alek Manoah is. And he's doing something that has, for the most part, never been done in baseball history, even if the other numbers aren't as phenomenal. A 2.5, 2.1 ERA, whatever it is, phenomenal, but not history-making phenomenal for him. So I know you guys talked about this last week, but if it's a do or die game for the Blue Jays, it is Kevin Gausman on the mound without a doubt for me.
I'm going to ignore that because I don't know.
Wow.
I said this last week.
The numbers don't lie, Jacob.
Say it, Jacob.
Okay,
Defend
but
yourself.
to
Don't
be fair,
defend
so
yourself right
Gausman,
now.
Let me look at
Defend
it.
yourself
Hold
right
on.
now.
Kevin Gausman has been there before. He's a veteran, and he is putting up a stretch unparalleled in baseball history.
Why not
You
have two
cannot
candidates?
change my mind.
Hang on. Let me get up Alek Manoah's
There you go, Jacob. I'll
stature.
just say.
So look,
Yeah,
hold
there you
on.
go.
I got it here. So you mentioned Kevin Gausman. Alek Manoah is actually a little bit better statistically. Now it's four. So equally, they've had 4 starts. Very, very small. They're probably going to make 26
Kevin Gausman
more.
had his 5th today.
Okay, sorry. Oh, so sorry.
It's not updated on baseball.
Okay, yeah. But so very, very small sample size. Numbers are relatively comparable. Alek Manoah maybe a tiny little bit better. I'll tell you what, this is not a bad problem to have.
Tell me how many strikeouts Alek Manoah has.
He has 25.
And tell me how many walks Alek Manoah has.
7. Okay, so
Yes,
fair. Yes, fair.
And
0. Yes.
One more question for you. Tell me how many home runs he's allowed.
2,
Okay.
which is more than
So,
Kevin Gausman. Yes.
0 home runs for Kevin Gausman, 0 walks for Kevin Gausman, and he struck out 10 batters in one game today. Case closed.
I'm happy that we're able to discuss this though, because like if we like, I would rather say, do I want the guy who's putting up Cy Young numbers or the guy putting up almost Cy Young numbers starting a game 7? Like that's and then there's also Jose Barrios, who's quietly becoming ace number 2 on this rotation, or ace number 3. Like this is a good situation to be in if you're this Blue Jays team. Like this, this team it's quite stacked. I think that is fair to say it, but I don't know. I think I want to see the rest of the season to decide who I would truly want. But the main reason why
season ends today. Season ends today. For some reason, collective bargaining agreement is overturned or whatever. The season ends today. They're doing it a quick playoff situation. 1 game playoff for the Blue Jays. It's Kevin Gausman.
I don't know
it
about
cannot
that.
be anyone else.
Remember, I called Alek Manoah like I think it was this was last year. I said that he is what Marcus Stroman could have become, where he's dominant, but he's like he feeds off of that crowd. Like if you put him in Game 7 of the World Series, or like any type of
feed off the. I don't care if you feed off the
but like
crowd
that
or
may
not.
Hey, let him finish. I want to
but
hear
that
this.
I think that he's the type of guy that you put him in a big situation that he knows is a big situation, and he knows that there's 50,000 people that are about to lose their minds if he strikes someone out. I think that makes him even better than Kevin Gausman. Maybe it's just for that game. Maybe it makes him perform a little bit better. I still think that you go with Alek Manoah. Maybe it's a hot take. Maybe it's kind of a little bit out there, but I wouldn't be surprised if Alek Manoah is the type of guy that gets an elimination game just because he feeds off of that crowd. Like you don't get there without Kevin Gausman and Jose Barrios in that rotation. But if it's that last game, like who was it? The guys, the ESPN guys, where they were saying like if the Martians have the droid shooting at Earth and you need that one guy to make the shot, and he said, I want Iguodala. I want Alek Manoah in that. Yeah, I want Alek Manoah in that situation, just because of how. Yeah. But you guys hear what I say. I think he feeds off the crowd. We'll see. Maybe Bryson goes for the other guy we haven't talked about.
Well, I can confirm it's not, but I'll just say this: as much as you guys both like, it's great to have this conversation. I look at it even bigger. I'll get to if I had to choose. Don't worry. But all I'm saying is, I look at it from bigger. You have a 3-headed monster. Instead of saying about this do or die thing, look at the entire series. Look how you line up your pitchers in the entire series, and these are guys that pitch well within the AL East, especially after the first month. I mean, we know Alek Manoah has been dominating the Yankees, even going back to last year. Kevin Gausman made 2 starts against the Red Sox in a matter of 2 weeks. That's pretty hard to replicate in terms of entire performance. You saw his performance today against the Astros. So these guys are all pitching really well against AL East teams. I'll even throw in Barrios because he had a good start at Fenway last week, and then he had a good start this week against Boston as well. So these guys are all they have that material in them all the way. And I guess to answer it, because if you don't remember, Jacob, I have to say Kevin Gausman, because this was Mark and I's prediction for the Cy Young on this team. And the fact is, you chose Barrios. So I don't know if you've changed your mind on that, but I don't know. I'll let you speak for yourself when that happens, but you got to stick to it. I mean, Mark, you're talking about like the guy has been absolutely dominant. I mean, you talked about it. No home runs given up. He hasn't given up a walk. And you look at today, another kind of day with weak contact given up. He threw 71 strikes on 98 pitches. This guy attacks the zone 0-1, 0-2, and all of a sudden it's like a 1-2 count or whatnot. 10 strikeouts today. And the one highlight I have too is one of the things that we saw earlier early in the start is when Bichette made that error. Kevin Gausman wasn't even phased. You know, of course, you have to throw an extra 6-7 pitches. Not exactly ideal for the pitch count. You want him to go deeper in the game. But at the end of the day, he went 7 strong innings. Wasn't even phased. Got out of it. No worries at all. And it's a common occurrence because, Jacob, I said this with you a couple days ago, is that splitter that he has is one of the most dominant pitches, if not the dominant pitch in baseball right now. That splitter is fooling so many people. His fastball gets a lot of movement. Those are the 2 kind of pitches that pretty much dominate in terms of him, in terms of what he throws. And then when he gets very dangerous is when the other pitch selections he has are in effect and they're on point. And I think it's a slider and his changeup the odd time. He throws a slider more than the changeup. But when all those pitches are clicking at the same time, you can only imagine from a hitter standpoint of it's pretty much impossible to know what's coming at you. And that is partially why he fools people every single start, or that's what he did, at least through the month of April. So that was happening. And of course, Jose Barrios is a guy too from this series, I thought, where in terms of a margin for error, in terms of the low offense that we've been talking about, these one-run games, Jose Barrios is another guy who has been turning it around ever since that first start. He gets better and better. His fourth seam was the dominant pitch today, in his start against Houston yesterday on the Saturday. He used the secondary pitch as the odd time to mix it up as well. So he was a lot more sharp in this start. He was striking out more guys. As much as he still gave up a lot of hits, he's a guy that can battle through it in terms of pitching from the stretch. And we've seen all season from him besides that first start. So while you have those three guys going, and we know at what Alek Manoah brings, and we know that he's going to have a start against the Yankees coming up, well, you have all that. You still have the question marks at the back end of the rotation, which is a bit concerning, a bit. I mean, you have Hyun-Jin Ryu. We know he's been out. He's going to come back. It sounds like when he comes back, he's going to be he won't be stretched out, which means it feels like he's going to start, and then it's going to be kind of like a piggyback role from Ross Stripling from there. He's going to come in the middle innings. And at this point, I don't think we have any idea what we're going to get of Hyun-Jin Ryu. The only thing that we can do is kind of be optimistic. But the main question mark, the main kind of what Yusei Kikuchi you're going to get, that's him. Yusei Kikuchi, what are you going to get from him? We saw his start at the beginning of this series, like the last one in Houston. It did not go well whatsoever. I mean, the one thing you took away from it is he was using his four seam majority of the time. One thing I also recognize, and a lot of it was actually pointed on the broadcast, is that he ditched his pause in his windup where he kind of lifts his leg, he kind of hesitates for a couple seconds and throws. It's all in one motion now. He goes right to the plate. And the problem with him in terms of the last start, and I guess you can even go back to last weekend in Houston, is it's the command that's the issue. I mean, he threw 27 balls on 66 pitches. I hate to compare him to Kevin Gausman because that's obviously at this point not fair, but in terms of efficiency, it's pretty clear what you'd rather have in terms of that, in terms of Kevin Gausman attacking that strike zone. So Yusei Kikuchi has a lot of work to do. The four seam usage is definitely something that they're working on, and it's something that he's trying to implement, but the command is all over the place right now. So it's the back end of the rotation that creates a lot of the question marks. But in terms of that three-headed monster that we talked about, it's a great issue to have in terms of debating on who would you rather throw at it when it kind of matters most. I really like it. You'd rather be doing that rather than talking about 5 question marks in your rotation. And believe me, we've been doing this podcast since 2017. We've gone through quite a lot of terms of starting rotation pitchers. It is pretty crazy, the turnaround that we've spoken about from that to this now. It's definitely a lot more refreshing. And I will say this, hate to do this, but I'm going to bring it up. Kevin Gausman, we know his numbers. I just want to say Robbie Ray has an ERA almost at 4. I'm just going to say that.
Wow.
Just going to say that. It was cold, but it was necessary. It was necessary.
Yeah. I want to backtrack a little bit. You bring up Yusei Kikuchi. I've heard rumblings of people who want him DFA'd. Bryson, you reacting like that, that's kind of my reaction at this point. We're 4 games into the season for Yusei Kikuchi. He's had 4 starts. It's too early for that conversation for me. I know the comparison that people probably want to bring up is Tanner Roark. To me, they are very different pitchers. The Blue Jays have had, a month, 2 months to work with him since they signed him, probably about a month and a half, 6 weeks. Tanner Roark, they had for a season prior to that explosion at the beginning of 2021. That's a key difference. Number 2, the Blue Jays are working on Yusei Kikuchi. It is a work in progress with him. You mentioned the commands. The cutter has also been an issue, trying to cut that out of his repertoire. The Blue Jays are working with him. Pete Walker is working with him to make sure these things are no longer issues. And it's a work in progress. Ross Adkins was on the radio broadcast today with Ben Wagner, and he said basically that they've been really encouraged. Yusei Kikuchi has been taking their suggestions. They've been working together consistently to make sure that he's improving off these weaknesses that they've noticed. It's a work in progress. And as frustrating as it may be to have the Blue Jays be in this position and have to roll out Yusei Kikuchi every 5 days, rolling out a guy who is of his caliber as a 5th starter is not the end of the world. That's not a problem for a team like the Blue Jays. And if you say you can count on a Alek Manoah win, a Kevin Gausman win, and a Jose Barrios win, and you're flipping the coin for both of, right now, Ross Stripling and Yusei Kikuchi, probably soon going to be Hyunjin Ryu and Ross Stripling, and then a separate start Yusei Kikuchi. If you're flipping a coin for those two turns through the rotation, I'll take that any day. If you can bank on 3 wins and then you flip a coin for the next 2, you're in business. So yeah, I just say for people who are contemplating that, I know there was some people on Blue Jays Talk after the game today talking about Yusei Kikuchi and saying how he is a problem. The Blue Jays should consider DFAing him. Give it time. He's a work in progress. And yeah, maybe things don't turn out by the end of June, by the end of July. And at that point, you start looking at trade options, how you can replace him in the rotation. But right now, the options are Ross Stripling, who's already in the rotation because of injuries, and Trent Thornton, I guess, would be the next guy going into the rotation. And that's not any better than Yusei Kikuchi. So the options aren't there right now. Give him time. Give the Blue Jays time to figure it out.
Yeah, I don't really know why everybody, the second things don't go well, just assume that a player should be DFA'd or sent to the
Well,
minors.
I understand why, because of
Okay,
the
yeah.
situation the Blue Jays are in right
Mhm,
now. They are in a situation where they have to win games, but at the same
mhm.
time, it's your 5th starter.
Yeah. And also, like you said, it's early, like, and you signed him for 3 seasons. Like, it's not like when you order something online, you don't like it, and then you just return it right away. Like, you've invested a lot into this, time and money wise. Like, you've invested a lot into having him at the back end of your rotation. And hey, if you're winning 3 out of every 5, yeah, you don't want to lose. You don't want him to be a guaranteed loss or a coin flip or less than that. But if you can bank on 3 out of 5 wins, 3 out of 5, 60%, like that's a good winning percentage that gets you into the playoffs. I would assume at least, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what winning 3 out of 5 games is over 162? That's
What?
97 wins.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think people are not thinking big picture. Like, this team is surprisingly, I think I could say, has some weaknesses. When I say surprisingly, I mean we knew it was a possibility, but we didn't fully expect it. But this team is good, like regardless of if there are some coin flips within the team. And I don't think Yusei Kikuchi is bad by any means. He's had gotten off to a rough start, fair enough. But like, let's also remember he's faced the Astros twice, faced the Yankees. Like, these are good teams, and I'm sure as the calendar starts to flip, they face, I think they have some easier opponents, if I'm not mistaken,
Well,
towards
you get the Yankees
May.
twice in 2
Mhm.
weeks, right? And
Yeah.
then you got Cleveland next weekend. So it's
Mhm.
kind of,
Yeah.
you got
And
Seattle. Like it's kind of,
Cincinnati too.
it's mixed. It's a
It'll
lot
yeah.
more balanced.
Oh,
Yeah.
Cincinnati will be easy. They're 3
Oh,
and
absolutely.
19, I think, so far.
Well, they're 2-0 and Joey Votto posts on TikTok, but anyways, like, you know what I mean? Like, it will get better for Yusei Kikuchi. He's not going to face the championship caliber teams, like ALCS caliber teams, every single time. Also, he can get worked on. Like, Robbie Ray was not good when he came to the Blue Jays, or at least wasn't good that season. Ross Stripling has turned things around. Like, Pete Walker can work his magic, and the Blue Jays can work their magic. Maybe he's not going to be a sub 3 or mid 3s ERA guy, but if you can get like high 3s at worst, approaching 4, it's not bad. Like, that's not bad by any means. And I think that's something that people need to realize. Like, just give him a little bit more time. You, in theory, could look to move him at the deadline if you need to, but if you're going to sign someone for a 3 year or 2 or 3 year contract, you don't get rid of him after the first month of it.
I don't know. To me, first of all, I don't think anything of it. I just think the common scapegoat topic is DFA this guy, DFA that guy. We heard the same thing with Ryu earlier on in the month. We know that they're not going to do that. We know that they're going to work through these issues, or at least try and work through these issues. Kikuchi, I know we're expecting better. We are, but we're not expecting him to be that top guy in the rotation, right? So that's the balance that you have with that. But we all know he's a lot better than what he's pitched the last 2 outings against the Astros. I mean, if you want other stuff to look at that start at Fenway Park he made last week. He did pretty good in terms of that early trouble, and then he kind of settled down. And as much as he's shown flashes, he's also shown a lot of issues that he still clearly has to work through. And let's just say he's going to have a lot of testing, I would say, in the next couple of weeks, because his next 2 starts are also against the Yankees too. So he's going to be seeing the Yankees quite a bit. And then if you want to balance that out, Alek Manoah is also going to be seeing the Yankees a bit. So you feel good about one thing, you don't feel good about the other thing. It's going to be tough. And I think this series coming up, like you have the red hot Yankees who are right now first in the AL East. It's going to be a really good series. And it's been nothing short of what we saw this entire month. We've been seeing playoff like series with the Red Sox, with the Astros ×2 for both. And now you're going to see the Yankees again, who you already saw last month. But, you know, the Yankees have really caught fire since the Jays last saw them. So we're going to see what happens. And I think it's going to be a very fun series coming up. So, you know, there's still, I guess, in terms of the offense, there's still a lot of issues going on. I just want to bring up a couple things with you guys. I don't know if you agree or not. So I don't know. One thing in particular is I want to bring up Bichette. I want to ask you guys if you think he may might be starting to turn a corner a bit. I think he's starting to show signs. I think he's kind of, I mean, you look at the home run today, that was really impressive. The opposite field go ahead home run. I just think that we might start to be seeing a little bit of a turnaround from him. I know he went 1 for 4 today in terms of the Sunday game. You know, he had a couple moments throughout the weekend. And then of course there was a couple games where he also struggled, but today in particular, there was a lot of hard hit contact. I think his first at bat was a line out and it was almost 112 miles per hour in terms of exit velocity, which means he got a really good contact. And then I think his second at bat was around 92 miles per hour with exit velocity. And I think it was an expecting batting average of almost 290. So today, as much as he got a little bit unlucky with that, he's hitting the ball really hard. And that's why I'm starting to get a little bit more optimistic with Bo. I think he's putting up a lot more or better of at bats. And, you know, he's been talking to the media. I think Joe Siddle had a really good segment on Blue Jay Central. I think it was yesterday, talking about Bo Bichette is still a very confident person and he's working through it. I just think it's something to take note of. I mean, you look at that, you get the top of the order going. It's going to be pretty crucial for this lineup to, you know, going back to what you guys spoke about earlier on about the concerns about these 1-run leads. Once Bo Bichette gets going and once that top of the order gets going at the same time, you feel like it's going to lead to better things overall for the offense. I mean, George Springer's been on all series. I think he's one of my highlights this series. You saw his clutch home runs. He was pretty much only responsible for the runs on the Saturday game, which they won in game 2. He had the clutch catch today. He was pretty much all over the field today. And I think it's become quite clear in terms of, or even though there's a small sample size, is he loves playing against his former team and he loves burning them. So you make the argument today, he saved the game today. I think it's pretty obvious that if he didn't catch that ball in the Sunday game, Alex Bregman would have tied the game because of it would have been a double or anything like that. It would have scored the run anyway from first base. So that's my highlight from the weekend. I know Vladimir Guerrero Jr. also kind of got out of it in terms of his home run slump, although I think he's almost won for his last 20. So he's still working through some issues, but for the most part, he's been good all season. So I think Bo Bichette starting to turn that corner is pretty crucial for the top of the order. I just wanted to ask you guys if you think the same way, or do you still need to see more from Bo?
Yeah, I think he's turning a corner. And it also helps that Teoscar Hernandez coming back, presumably by the end of this week. So he's going to get some more protection and Vladdy's going to get some more protection. And I think it's just going to help the offense in general, outside of Teoscar's individual performance, which we know is going to be excellent. It's going to give protection and depth to the rest of the offense. So yeah, I think he's turning a corner, and I think the offense is turning a corner. And I think, like we spoke about earlier, it has to, if you want to stop with these 1-run games.
Yeah, I said this. I've said this multiple times, but I'm pretty sure I said this last episode. Is I'm not concerned about Bo Bichette over his career. Now I know he played a full season last year, but 2020 and 2019. Roughly the equivalent-ish of another season. So within 2 seasons, roughly, of Major League service time, he's been a consistent player. I'm not worried about it. I don't think that this is indicative of a long drought. I think it's just, you know, when you're a freak swinger, sometimes you are at risk of these types of things where you're just unlucky, or you know, you're getting into a ball where you hit it hard or somebody gets out or gets you out. But I'm not worried about it by any means. He's a regular on this team. He doesn't have to prove it. I mean, obviously, if he is terrible for the entire season, then you're like, okay, well, maybe the team needs to look elsewhere, but it's not going to happen right now. It's not going to happen at all. I'm not worried by any means. I just, you know, you do like to see him turn things around. And even if he is struggling, I'll take a grand slam or a home run as your like one hit of the day any day. Like if it's giving your team a chance to win, but still, I'm not worried. He's a regular. He's proven that. And he's all I got to say is please work on that defense, man. Like your offense can carry you so much, but that needs to get worked on.
The defense is not a problem.
It's not a problem most of the time, but
I agree with Mark. I
it's
mean,
not
he
a
makes
problem.
just as many good plays as he does bad plays.
that's fair.
You look at the plays.
It's
Look at
not
the
a
play he
problem.
made today. I agree with you, Mark.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And his
keep going.
job is not to be a defense first shortstop. He's an offense first shortstop, so the defense is not a problem.
Yeah,
before
okay,
you,
that's fair.
yeah, before you continue, I also want to point out today. One thing that caught my mind was George Springer's hustle in the 6th inning to keep that inning alive for Bo Bichette, who tied the game. If he doesn't beat out that throw, I think he hit it to Aledmus Diaz. Who knows where we would be standing? But that gave Bo Bichette the opportunity to hit that home run. And going back to his defense quickly, yes, there's a couple routine plays where he bobbles it. You almost want to rip your hair out, but at the same time, it makes up for it, I think, because of all the plays he does make, and that's what you're expecting from him. So, and that goes back to what we said. He's one of the funnest players on the team to watch, but he's also can be very frustrating. But I agree that the defense is not a major issue.
It's not an issue. I just when you misplay this many routine plays, it's like, man, I'm not saying I'm a major league shortstop, but like
Okay,
I'm sure the
Jacob.
average person. Anyways, moving
Go
on.
ahead,
Like,
Mark.
yeah, go on.
Okay,
Let's move on from
Jacob.
that one.
Well, it is the end of April. It's the first day of May, and it is time for, I think, what will probably become a new series for us. We're doing end of the month awards. So it's exactly what it sounds like, and we're going to be going rapid fire because I think most of these are pretty obvious. We're going to start with Cy Young because that one, to me at least, is a no-brainer.
Here we go
Kevin
again.
Gausman. It's Kevin Gausman.
Yes, I'll say for this month it was Kevin Gausman.
Okay, there we go.
This month, like this isolated month.
Okay, so Jacob's warmed up to the idea a little bit more. Yeah, it's pretty set in stone. Kevin Gausman, I think you give a quick honorable mention to Alek Manoah, but in terms of his stuff, in terms of the movement, in terms of everything like that, dominating strikeouts, we went over it earlier on. It's got to be Kevin Gausman.
Okay, next one I think will also be a no-brainer. Reliever of the month, Jordan Romano.
It is no, I'm kidding. It's Jordan Romano.
It is Jordan Romano, but you have to give these assists to these guys later in the game.
With these honorable mentions.
You have to, though. But think about it. Jordan Romano doesn't get these opportunities if people coming in before him don't blow the game. One honorable mention I will make is Tim Meza, who has been phenomenal coming out of the bullpen. Again, setting things up today as an example. All I'm saying is you have to reckon, as much as Romano's been phenomenal, you can't take anything away from that. You have to recognize the guys that are coming in beforehand and keeping that in play for him to get that save. But in terms of performance, yes, it's got to be Romano.
Also, something with Adam Simber, he hasn't allowed an earned run since April 17th. So.
And he leads the American League in wins.
Hey, I'm happy that we have this many good players on the team. Like, I'll take it.
Maybe Cy Young for the month of April is Adam Simber since he leads the league in wins. Okay, next one, biggest surprise. I'm going to go with Espinal.
I'm going to disagree with that just because I knew that Espinal was bound for a breakout year. Like I'm just saying, but I'll think what I will say, the biggest surprise for me is probably, and it's not a pleasant surprise, but it's Alejandro Kirk because he just truly has not really got it going yet. Like you expect him to get in, be that DH. Yeah, he'll catch, but if you're looking at a disappointment, it's got to be Alejandro Kirk just because it's not really gone exactly where you want it to be.
I don't know if I agree with that. Mark, you?
It's been very slow. Like he's had a very slow start.
We saw the strikeouts. He doesn't strike out. He's putting the ball in play as much as he's not hitting home runs. There's obviously elements of the game where, he's not excelling in certain parts, but I think for the most part, he's turning that corner and he's being really good. I'll say I agree. I'll go Espinal. I think Jacob, as much as you may want, you may have predicted it or not. I just, from a guy that has never consistently played every day, it's hard to kind of imagine that he was going to really put up these numbers to start the year off. I mean, you really don't know. We spoke about a Kevin Biggio platoon, and I think everyone else did. And look how far that's come. And we don't know what's going to happen with him. But for a guy that really has taken advantage of that spot playing every day, he has to be your surprise player of the month for sure.
And I'll give an honorable mention to Zach Collins because
honorable mention goes to you now. There you go.
No one expected what Zach Collins did this month, so we'll shut him out here.
And he stays on the roster as the roster shrinkens. We
Yes,
spoke about that.
first
They're
down.
going to stick with 3 catchers. He's an option to DH from the left side. You can't take anything away from him. Credit to him who played his way onto this team.
We're gonna miss hearing Rick Astley at the ballpark and having Gosu Kato rickroll us all the time. But okay. I think this one will be interesting. Gold Glove. I'm giving it to Yusei Kikuchi. I think let me explain myself. Obviously, Matt Chapman's defense is more important to this team, and I'm predicting both of you are going to say Matt Chapman. But Yusei Kikuchi is someone I had no idea he could field as well as he does. And it seems in every start when we watch him, there are bunt attempts, there are little nibblers in front of the plate, and he pounces off the mound and is able to make those plays so well. I've been very pleasantly surprised with that. So I give him Gold Glove for the month of April.
I'm gonna give it to George Springer. Like he makes the
Wow.
average play, but when game's on the line, he'll run for like what is it, like 40, 50 meters, and he'll dive and he'll make a fantastic play. Like look at today. When was it? A couple of games ago, I think it was in the Red Sox series. Like he'll basically do what Kevin Pillar used to do on top of making just your average good play. But yeah, definitely been a fantastic defender.
That was going to be my pick. If Jacob went with Chapman, I think it's a toss up just because of those clutch moments. But in terms of consistency, in terms of arm strength, everything, I'll say it's Matt Chapman.
Okay, good.
I'll say that. Yeah.
I was worried none of us was going to pick Chapman.
No, yeah, you had to bring in Chapman if Jacob wasn't going to say it.
Yeah. Bad. Yeah. I mean, Chapman has been so good. It is incredible to watch him day in and day out. We're so spoiled. And I still can't get over how good his arm is. It shocks me every time. Okay, so now for the big one, the final one, most valuable player from the month of April, George Springer.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he makes the good plays. He's been off to a great start. I think one of the biggest differences between this season and last season is George Springer's healthy and he's here for the start of the season and he's making his impact known. I can't wait to see what a full season out of him will be. So I'll second that.
Knock on wood that it is a full season. But yes, I think him being in the lineup every day, pretty much piggybacking from what you said, I think that's the reason why he's the MVP. Not only has he been the most consistent hitter leading off, we know he loves leadoff home runs. We know just clutch moments he's had. You guys can count about almost 5 times already, maybe even more, where he's had a clutch moment. He had a clutch moment against Boston, obviously, a couple games ago, tying the game. He had a couple good home runs off his former team. Same thing last weekend. He had a couple good game-saving catches today, in particular on the Sunday. He's been all over the place. He's making his presence known both offensively and defensively. And the fact that we're seeing what could have been, even if you look back at last year when a healthy George Springer, it just shows that impact player that he is. And he may not be the most talented player on the team because you can say someone like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but in terms of consistency at the plate and everything like that, showing what a healthy George Springer truly looks like, he's got to be your MVP from what you've seen so far.
All right. And with that, we'll wrap up this episode of Section 138. Blue Jays facing the Yankees. Oh, I guess we got to do series prediction.
Yes.
I will be the pessimistic one. It's a 3-game set, right?
3.
Yeah. I'll be pessimistic, and I'll say 1 out of 3. I think the Yankees are so hot right now. They've won 8 in a row. So I'll take 1 out of 3.
See, here's the thing. You have the back end of your rotation minus Alek Manoah pitching. And I know that's usually what I do. I just vaguely gauge based off of the pitching. I don't know. I mean, obviously you can't split this because it's not 4 games. I'm gonna still say they somehow come away with 2 out of 3. I don't know how. I'm just saying it's gonna happen somehow.
That would be a franchise record for non-series losses to start the season.
Why not? I mean, we predicted, I think, Jacob, you predicted 2 out of 3 with me coming into this series. We were both optimistic of it. I said, why not close the month out? Well, why not get to that franchise record? I mean, Ross Stripling, he's been pitching really well. Especially going back to his last start. I like the chances of him doing that. Alek Manoah, we were very confident when he pitches against the Yankees. The Yankees haven't been proven at all to hit against him. And that one coin flip, that one wild card is that series finale with Yusei Kikuchi. I'll say, if anything, that's the game they lose, but I say the Jays take 2 out of 3 and keep it going.
Okay, we'll see what happens. As always, you can support our podcast by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also find us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/section 138 pod. You can check us out on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok at section 138 pod. And we will be looking forward to this series against New York. It's going to be an intense matchup at the Rogers Center. We'll catch you then.